Hi guys. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at completing the square method of solving quadratic equations. So we want to solve 6x squared minus 10x plus 4 equals to 0 using completing the square method. Now these are the steps you need to take. The first step is to move the constant term. So you move the constant term. What's the constant term? The last term, the c. So this is a constant term. So we'll move it across the equality sign. So it's going to be 6x squared minus 10x equals to minus 4. So remember, that's the first step. You move the constant term. So you can write it somewhere. Move the constant term to the right. Then the next step is to divide through by the coefficient of x squared. We divide through by the coefficient of x squared. What is the coefficient of x squared in this question? Where it is 6. This is x squared. The coefficient is 6. So I'm going to divide through by 6. So let me break it down and see what's going to give me. 6 divided by 6 is going to give me 6 x squared. So 2 here 3, 2 here 5. So I'm going to be left with 5 over 3 here x. Then minus 2 over 3. Good. So the next step is to do what we call adding the square of half the coefficient of x. I'm going to take it again. The third step is to add the square of half the coefficient of x. So I think I need to write this. The third step, step 3, is add the square of half the coefficient of x. So now what is the coefficient of x here? The coefficient of x is minus 5 over 3. Coefficient of x is minus 5 over 3. Now the step says add the square of half the coefficient of x. So it simply means that we need to halve this first. So what is half of this? Half simply means I'm going to multiply it by half. So that's going to give me minus 5 over 6. Now, they say add the square of half the coefficient of x. So we are going to now square it. So this particular term is what we're going to be adding to both sides of the equation. So adding the square of half the coefficient of x to both sides is now going to make our equation x squared minus 5 over 3x plus minus 5 over 6 squared equals to minus 2 over 3 plus minus 5 over 6 squared. Yep, so that's it. Now, the next thing we do is to try to open up these brackets. We're going to open up this bracket. Now, there's another step. The next step here in this particular case, you need to be careful here what we do to this particular term. Okay, you need to be very careful. Now I'm going to try to explain it from more like from the back to the front. Now this particular term, okay, is everything here is the same as x minus 5 all over 6 squared. Yeah, you might be wondering, how do you mean? How did you get that? Okay, good. So let's try to explain it. Let's break it down further. So x minus 5 over 6 all squared is x minus 5 over 6 multiplied by x minus 5 over 6. If I try to expand this, this is what I'm going to get. X times x would give me x squared. X times minus 5 over 6 is going to give me minus 5 over 6x. This also is going to give me minus 5 over 6x. Well, this times this is going to give me plus 5 over 6 squared. Okay, now if you notice, it looks like what we have here, but I can still go further to breaking it. So this is x squared minus 5 over 6x minus 5 over 6x is going to give me minus 5 over 3 minus 5 over 3 um, x. Okay, then plus this. So looking at it now, you should understand why I went straight to um, factoring it into this. So take note, it's very simple. Once you are solving, just take note of the term, okay? The term that you're adding to both sides, the term that we're told to add to both sides in step 3, okay? You can just pick the x squared, pick that particular term, put it together. Of course, you must take note of the signs too. Put it together, okay? And then it's going to give you this particular term. So there's nothing special about it. Now we are going to add it to, we're going to continue to simplify our equation. So I have x squared, continuing from where we stop, we have x squared, sorry, x minus 5 over 6 all squared. Remember, this is the step I was trying to explain. So I've finished explaining it now. So I won't continue my solving. X minus 5 over 6. Then this is the right hand side, minus 2 over 3. Now plus, of course, when I square this, I'm going to get 25 over 36. 25 over 36 is what I'm going to get. Now, okay, let me come over to this side. So moving everything over to this side, I'm going to get x minus 5 over 6 all squared is equal to, now I just want to rearrange this. This is 25 over 36 minus 2 over 3. Now let me take the LCM here. The LCM here is 36. This divided by this is 1. So this is 25. Minus 3 into this is 12 times this is 24. So I have my equality sign. Then I've got x minus 5 over 6 squared. So this is going to break it down further. This, and this is 1 over 36. So the next step we'll take, step 4, is to, because we need to take off this square, so we'll simply take the square root of both sides. So in taking the square root of both sides, of course, this square disappears. So I'm going to be left with x minus 5 over 6 equal to plus or minus 1 over 36. Now we're using plus or minus because we are interested in both the negative and the positive values of x. So that's why we're adding the plus or minus. So this is it. Then the next thing is, I'm going to just try to readjust. X equals to, when minus 5 over 6 crosses the equality sign, it becomes 5 over 6. The negative sign disappears. So 5 over 6 plus or minus, the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 36 is 6. So this is 1 over 6. 1 over 6. Now, what this means is that since we have the same denominator, I can simply just say x equals to 5 plus 1 all over 6, or 5 minus 1 all over 6. Take note, that's the meaning of this term, plus or minus. So it simply means that x is 5 plus 1 over 6, or x is 5 minus 1 over 6. So what is 5 plus 1 over 6? Is 6 over 6. So x is 6 over 6, or x is what? 5 minus 1 is 4 over 6. So that is it. So at the end of the day, what do we have? 6 here is 1, 1. 2 here is 2, 2 here is 3. So x is simply 1 or 2 over 3. So that's our value for x. Very simple. So we're going to quickly look at the second example. And remember, we're trying to solve this using completing the square method. So the first step is to do what? Move the constant term across the equality sign. So we're going to get x squared minus 2x equals to 8. That's the first step. Then the second step, sorry, is to divide through by the coefficient of x squared. But in this case, our x squared, the coefficient of x squared in this case is 1. So nothing's going to change. It's going to remain the same. So we can skip that particular step and move to the third step, which is adding the square of half the coefficient of x. And like I did previously, I like to write this. It says adding the square of half the coefficient of x. So what is the coefficient of x? Coefficient of x is minus 2. What is half of it? Half of it simply means multiply by 1 over 2. And so the half of it is simply minus 1. So what is the square of it? So minus 1 squared. So we're adding the square of half the coefficient of x squared. So this is x squared minus 2x plus minus 1 all squared equals to 8 plus minus 1 squared. So that's it, very simple. Now remember what we did previously. This particular term, okay, this particular term is simply x minus 1. And if you want, we can still break it further we can still expand it to show you, okay. If this is expanded, it's going to take you back to this. So we simply factor it into this. So this is x minus 1 all squared. Then we have 8. This is plus 1 square is simply 1. Minus 1 square, sorry, is plus 1. So x minus 1 squared equals to 9. We need to take off this square. So we simply do what? Take the square root of both sides. Now, in taking the square root of both sides, this term disappears. The square disappears, sorry. So I'm going to be left with x minus 1 equals to square root of 9, of course, since we're interested in both the positive and negative value of x, right? Plus or minus. So x minus 1 is therefore equal to plus or minus, the square root of 9 is 3. So x equals to minus 1 crosses and it becomes plus 1 plus or minus 3. So x equals to 1 plus 3 or 1 minus 3. So x equals to 1 plus 3 is 4. 1 minus 3 is minus 2. So this is our value for x.